Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the John F. Scarpa Academic Center on Stockton University's Atlantic City campus. I'm John Frungen, Director of the William J. Hughes Center for Public Policy. The Hughes Center and the press are sponsoring tonight's second legislative district debates. In the spirit of civil political discourse embodied by our center's namesake, Ambassador Bill Hughes, we ask that the audience allow the candidates to make their cases without interruption. Please refrain from any comments, applause, or any other kind of noise until the end of the debate. Please silence your cell phones now. This forum is being streamed live on the Hughes Center and Press of Atlantic City's websites, so please no photographs or recordings. And a recording of this debate, however, will be available on the Hughes Center website as of tonight. So candidates for the New Jersey State Senate will debate first, followed by the Assembly candidates at 7 p.m. A random coin toss determined the order of the questions. And our questions will be posed tonight on my far left from Buzz Keogh, editor of the Press of Atlantic City, and Liz Myers, the editor of Stockton's student newspaper, The Argo. Each candidate in this debate will have 1 minute to respond and 30 seconds if there are follow-up comments. We hope to get to as many issues as possible. Candidates, we will be timing your responses, and you can see right there, we'll signal when 15 seconds are left and when time is up. And here are your candidates. At the podium to the audience's left is Democrat Karen Fitzgerald, an Atlantic County Commissioner. Fitzpatrick, I'm sorry, Fitzpatrick. And to your right on stage is Senator Vincent Palestina, the Republican. With that, we get started. Based on the coin flip, the first question is addressed to Mr. Palestina.
Good evening. Mr. Palestino, if you were elected, what would be your legislative priorities in the coming term?
Well, thanks, Buzz, and thanks to Stockton and the press for putting this on. Of course, great to be here every time we do one of these things. Obviously, we're going to continue the progress we've made, Buzz. We have had a number of initiatives for Atlantic County that have been good for the county. When you think about, a tough on crime county prosecutor, when you think about 5 Superior Court judges, 2 administrative law judges, when you think about investments into Stockton University and Atlantic Care and the Aviation Research Park, we have done so many things in a short 2-year period here in Atlantic County. So we are going to continue that progress. We are going to continue those pillars of our economy. We are going to continue to get people to work, and we are going to continue to create opportunities for this area. Legislatively, certainly, property taxes have always been the biggest concern in New Jersey. And I want to get back there, and we want to work on how we really control and reduce property taxes through equitable education funding. And so I would say, as always, that is a main priority.
Thank you. Ms. Fitzpatrick, your legislative priorities.
Increasing transportation here in Atlantic County is very, very important. It's difficult to get around the county. Continuing to attempt to bringing more of our fair share of the big budget that Mr. Palestina voted for twice here to Atlantic County, and increasing our funding for schools to alleviate pressure on the property owners. There are other ways to do this rather than putting it in the budget. We have to think outside the box about investing in ways to get more people to move here. We haven't had much of a population growth, and without people, you can't invest, you can't invite investment in the county. So those are my things.
Thank you. Liz, would you address this question first to Ms. Fitzpatrick?
We will get to climate change policy overall in a moment. But specifically here, do you support or oppose building wind turbines off of the New Jersey coast, and what are the reasons for your position?
I do support building wind turbines off the New Jersey coast. There are many reasons. Thousands of union jobs all over our region, not just Atlantic County, but all the way through the region, Salem, Cumberland, Atlantic, the poorest counties in the state. Additionally, this wind farm will take the equivalent of 400,000 cars off the road each year, and that is 2.2 million tons of carbon monoxide.
As a follow-up, a press reader suggested asking, are you confident that wind energy will save money or at least be a financial wash for ratepayers?
Is that to me again?
Yes.
Yes, I am confident. We're not new to this. We're last. We're very late, 30 years late. All over the world, there are wind turbines. People are using them, installing more and more, and the cost of them will, you know, it's a chicken and an egg kind of thing. You have to make the investment in order to reap the value. And the studies that I've seen show that the costs to the consumer will not be a great increase.
Mr. Palestina, and you can take time to answer both of the questions.
Well, thank you. Our energy policy in the state is a disaster right now. Yeah, we have to do an all-the-above approach. We're not going to do this one way, and we cannot increase costs for consumers the way this would do it. So, you know, as it relates to specifically the wind farms, I said we should take a deep breath here. We should take a break. We should figure out what's going on with the marine environment, and we should figure out what the cost of this is going to be. There is absolutely no question it is going to increase costs. There is absolutely no question that our infrastructure cannot handle all electric vehicles by 2035. There is no question that we don't have the grid to even produce that kind of electricity by 2035. It is totally unrealistic, the things that we have been talking about. So I say, let's take a step back, let's take a deep breath, let's get everyone together, and let's figure out collectively, collaboratively, how we produce energy in Jersey at a reasonable cost, still understanding we will transition to as much clean energy as possible.
Thank you. This next question goes to Mr. Palestina.
The current administration has made ambitious proposals to combat climate change regarding emissions, flooding, and electric vehicles. Do you think such strong action is needed to protect the environment, or is the government going too far or too fast?
Well, certainly too fast. And I just talked about this, but you know, the 2035 initiative is just not realistic. It can't happen. I think anybody who's being honest in this room knows that it can't happen by 2035. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the grid. We can't produce the power that would be necessary. We can't get everybody electric cars by 2035. We can't put electric charging stations in everybody's home by 2035. Our roads, our bridges do not have the weight limits to deal with the increased weights of these vehicles. You think about the parking garages over here in Atlantic City. We don't have the weight limits in these parking garages to handle the weight of some of these vehicles. And then you think about having one fire with these in one of these garages. We don't have the ability to do this right now, and so certainly it is too fast what we're trying to do. Take a deep breath, take a break, and let's figure out what works best. But I can promise you, the 2035, you know, the notion we're going to give everybody electric vehicles in all of our communities by 2035, it's not happening.
Ms. Fitzgerald. Fitzpatrick, I'm sorry.
I think that Mr. Palestina doesn't give American ingenuity enough credit. I remember in 1961, a president said we're going to land on the moon in 8 years, and we did. So I have every confidence that we can accomplish this within 12 years. I'm not in favor of mandates. I think the market will take care of incentivizing people to make these changes, but I'm confident we can do it.
Thank you. This question goes to Ms. Fitzpatrick, who I've known for 30 years, and I'm just having problems with her name tonight. I'm sorry, I apologize. But buzz for Ms. Fitzpatrick.
New Jersey has the highest property taxes in the nation. The Anchor program, which replaced the homestead rebate, provides checks to qualifying homeowners and renters, and the Stay NJ program is supposed to provide rebates to seniors starting in 2026. Do you think this is an effective way to provide property tax relief?
It's part of the puzzle. I think the Stay New Jersey program, starting in 2026, will be very, very helpful. $6,500 is the maximum, and $500,000 is the income limit. That covers a lot of people, but it is only part of the issue. We have to figure out a way to get more people here to share the burden of roads and bridges and just the fixed costs of what we need to live.
Mr. Palestina.
Yes, sir. So I thank Karen for pointing out that I voted for 2 budgets. They, of course, included the anchor program for 2 years, up to $1,500 for a homeowner, up to $450 if you're a renter. Started last year, continued this year, voted in favor of Stay New Jersey. So I do think it begins the conversation we need in New Jersey to control property taxes. Certainly not a panacea. We need to do more, but it is a start. And in terms of the budget votes, I am proud that I voted for these budgets. We were the only 3 Republicans last year to vote for the budget. I did it because it was good for Atlantic County, and I have said, not going to worry about politics. I will do what is best for the county and best for the people of the county, and so I voted for the budget because it was good for Atlantic County.
Thank you. Buzz will stay with Mr. Palestina on this next question.
Politicians from both major parties voiced opposition when the Biden administration floated the idea of housing migrants at Atlantic City Airport. What's the right balance between New Jersey's tradition of welcoming immigrants and refugees and dealing with massive waves of new people?
Well, I think you saw, a collaborative approach and a collaborative discussion on that topic specifically. We don't have the resources. We don't have the infrastructure here to deal with that kind of situation. And it's a federal base. It can't happen there. It's just not compatible. In terms of the overall debate, we got a serious problem in this country. It is a problem that has been here for many, many, many years. It is been both parties in control that have created this problem. And I want to get very, very clear. We all said we need to have compassion, and this is not at all about immigrants whatsoever. It is about an activity that is illegal, and I say, and we should all say, we are a nation of laws. We want everybody to be able to come here legally. We're all immigrants, and everybody be able to come here, but let's do it in a legal, orderly, process where we know who is coming here and they can contribute to society and to our communities. And so let's do it, but we got to do things legally. Everybody must follow the law. That is the bottom line.
Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Well, I think that once someone enters the country and applies for asylum, they are supposed to get the protection of all of our laws, but that's beside the point. When we had the press conference in Atlantic City, you were not very welcoming, and the words and rhetoric that you spoke were horrendous and hateful. I do think that if and nobody has seen this document that said that we were going to get 60,000 people here to Atlantic County, but if we were asked to take people, the federal government would have to provide a plan and money for educating, social services, medical care, all the things that people need to live. We couldn't do it on our own. Everybody agrees that we're one of the poorest counties in the state of New Jersey, and we can't take on that burden without help from the government.
John, that was a complete mischaracterization. Hold on. I said exactly what I said here. We want to welcome people here. We have to do it legally. And the bottom line here, I said that day, was we don't have the resources from a healthcare perspective. We don't have the resources from an educational perspective. We don't have the resources from a criminal justice perspective. And so that was really, the situation that I said that day, and I reiterated here. We don't have the capability of doing it, and it's a federal military base. It can't happen here. So it's really off the table. I don't know where the document was or why Joe Biden would say bring them here, but it cannot happen.
Do you want to take 30 seconds?
Yeah, I was there. You didn't say just what you said now.
That's what I said.
No.
That's what I said.
You blamed the migrant community here in Atlantic County.
No, whoa, never once did I blame any community. We are all immigrants, and we welcome everyone, and we want everyone to be a positive member of society without question. My grandparents, your grandparents, we all came here, but we did it through a legal, orderly process that must be followed. You mentioned it, this process where we had these open borders and everybody just coming across and they get asylum. It doesn't work. We clearly see it doesn't work. It's not us saying it. It's Democratic mayors in New York. It's Democratic mayors in other towns. Look at what is going on. It's not just Republicans. It is everyone. We got to come up with a comprehensive, collaborative plan, Republicans and Democrats in Washington, D.C. to deal with it.
Would you briefly wrap this up?
Sure. So, the state legislature doesn't have control of this. It's the federal government. So why aren't our federal representatives taking care of this? Why wouldn't Congressman Jeff Van Drew propose a bill to change the immigration process?
Okay. I don't want to keep going back and forth,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'll throw it back. Why wouldn't Joe Biden and Cory Booker and Bob Menendez, Gold Bar Bob, why don't they go take care of it? I mean,
Somebody's got to start.
All right, let's move on to a new topic. And Liz, let's address this question first to Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Sure. The U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on Roe v. Wade sends the issue of abortion to the states. Do you support or oppose keeping abortion legal in New Jersey? And what, if any, restrictions would you support?
I do support keeping abortion and all women's health care legal in New Jersey. Anybody who thinks that a pregnancy that gets past 15 weeks is not a wanted pregnancy doesn't understand women's health care. There are things that can go wrong later in a pregnancy. The fetus may be ill, may have disabilities. The mother may be ill, may have disabilities. And that is why it should be a discussion between a woman and her husband and her doctor, not her husband, and if necessary, for the life of either, terminate the pregnancy. It's a private conversation.
Mr. Palestine.
So I get our extra time on this one, John, because obviously is a big focus of their campaign, so you don't have to start the timer on this one. I said it here in this room, actually 2 years ago. I am personally pro-life with exceptions. Make no apologies. I make the best decisions I make for my wife, for myself, for my wife, Carolyn, who's here, and our family. But as I said 2 years ago, and I say now, I'm not going to try to tell anybody else what to do in their lives. As long as you're not affecting me or my family. What? No. Thank you for protecting us, sir. As long as you're not affecting me or my family, you do your life. But there are two key things here, I think, and I said the same thing in 2021. This is not new. First of all, there is at some point in this process, there is a life that I believe deserves protection. We can debate when it is, certainly have that debate and try to build consensus. But at some point in that process, last debate, it was 22, 24 weeks was the number thrown out. But at some point, that life deserves protection. And I do not support this Democratic plan in New Jersey that was passed that, one, has no restrictions on late-term abortion, and two, does not require parental consent, parental notification. You in this state, you need parental consent to go get a piercing if you're a minor, to get a tattoo, but yet we're going to pull away parental consent on something that is so personal to people. It should not happen. There should be parental consent. So I think those are two key things we need to do. Secondly, we need to get back to the way it was when I was growing up, which was, and you guys all know it because you're in the same generation, it was all about how do we prevent unwanted pregnancies, because it's a medical procedure and you don't want to have people go through medical procedures. So how can we make sure people are educated, get people all the materials they need so that we can avoid unwanted pregnancies? And we got to get back to that. Let's avoid a medical procedure if we can.
Sir, could you please wrap up?
If there's a mistake, we also have to make materials accessible, contraceptives, whatever materials, so if people make a mistake and there's an issue, they can deal with it. So I am not telling anybody what to do. I said last time, I didn't support the overturning of Roe v. Wade. I didn't support what Texas did. So let's be done with the fraudulent campaign and let's talk about real issues.
Ms. Fitzpatrick, go ahead and take a full minute.
Again, I would say that this is a conversation between a woman and her doctor. Nobody else should be telling somebody who has a child that that is wanted, but is unable to survive, that they should have to carry that pregnancy to term. Do you know how excruciating that is on the part of the mother? I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I have family members who have, and it's horrible. It's horrible. And by the way, when you say contraception should be available, do you mean to high school students?
I mean to everyone. And listen, we lost a pregnancy, so, as I said, it's a very personal issue, and I agree 1,000% with you. It is a decision between a mother, a father, and their doctor. Without question, that is it. And so I agree 1,000% on that. Very personal issue. And everyone in life has got to deal with this issue in their own personal way. We, whether it's you or me, we don't have any right to start telling other people what to do in their lives. If you're not affecting me, you're not affecting my family, have at it.
Thank you. I'll remind the candidates that we have two very able panelists who are here to pose questions to the candidates. Thanks.
Sorry, Candace.
Liz, would you pose the next question to Mr. Palestina?
Governor Phil Murphy refused to sign a bill loosening rules for how microbreweries operate, instead calling for a complete overhaul of New Jersey's liquor licensing laws. Do you think major reform is needed?
I mean, it depends on how you define major. I think you could look at some reform. I think that what was proposed by the governor in talking to some of our local establishments and local restaurants and local breweries went too far. You know, people have made significant investments in their liquor license for these establishments, you know, somewhere upwards of $500,000 for some of these things, and you were immediately going to devalue a very, very significant investment someone made. So I didn't think that was fair. I think that we need to take a look at that, because if somebody has made that investment, somebody is operating a business, somebody employs people, to simply yank the rug out from under them like that was not the right way to go. Reforms, yes, but something like what was proposed, we didn't support. Talked to the governor about it directly, and he understood. You know, they were trying to, in some communities, open up the ability for somebody to get liquor licenses, and I think there are a number of inactive licenses in every community in New Jersey, and so we can look at reforms that would activate some of these inactive licenses and get people the ability to do this, but we don't need to strip away someone else's, you know, value in their license by doing it.
Thank you. Ms. Fitzpatrick.
I agree with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely, business owners, restaurant, bar owners invested a lot of money in their liquor licenses, and to have brewery, wineries be able to have income without that investment doesn't seem fair, and there should be some study on how to make it fair for everybody.
Thank you. Buzz, we'll stick with Ms. Fitzpatrick. Your next question.
Around the country, school curriculum has become a contentious issue, especially regarding gender identity, race, and sex education. How do we find an appropriate balance between what parents may want their children to learn and what professionals believe students need to know in today's society?
Well, first of all, the state and the federal government shouldn't be mandating what's going on in individual classrooms. That job should be up to teachers, parents, and the school boards. They should be talking with each other, deciding what's appropriate for their municipality and their school districts. That's about it.
Thank you. Mr. Palestina.
So obviously it's a very contentious topic, and it's a situation where, you know, again, I have agree with the governor on some cases. I disagree with the governor and the attorney general on other cases, and this is one of those cases. Parents raise their children. Parents support their children. Parents love their children. And so the notion that we are going to set school curriculum guidelines at the state or federal level, and we're not going to allow parents to be involved in the discussions about school curriculum or about their education, is crazy. There is no way society is getting better if we try to sideline the role of parents in their children's lives. No way. And so when you see Democrats in this state litigation right now to prevent parents from being involved in knowing about their children's education, their children's lives, we are going backwards. And so we got to go the other way. We got to figure out more ways to get parents involved, notified, included, because that's how our educational system overall and our children's well-being is going to be improved when you have parents that love, support, care for them.
Thank you. All right, Buzz, this next question, we'll start with Mr. Palestina.
Do you support or oppose the continued oversight by the state of the city of Atlantic City? And what conditions should the city meet before it returns to self-governing?
I do. I mean, it's a short answer. I think everyone who's been here any length of time, and I've been here my entire life. Many of you I know have been here your entire life. You know, we had a promise with casino gaming back when it started in 1976. We haven't realized it. I mean, you go out in the city, you recognize we have not realized the promise that we were supposed to have with casino gaming, and so I do support the continued involvement. You know, whether you want to call it a takeover, whether you want to call it a partnership, whatever you want to call it, the state of New Jersey, I believe, needs to be here with the city of Atlantic City. We have challenges coming with New York gaming. We have challenges with, you know, the same things we've been talking about forever with clean and safe and the perception of this city. We cannot stop any progress now. The state of New Jersey needs to continue that partnership, needs to be down here, needs to be involved. And so we have some critical things over the next couple of years with the takeover, quote unquote, with the pilot, with online gaming renewal that are very critical. And we need the state of New Jersey to be a real partner with the city of Atlantic City and our region in those efforts.
Okay, Ms. Fitzpatrick.
I do support the takeover, if that's what you want to call it, of Atlantic City, and it is supposed to end in, I think, 3 or 4 years. I think the city should be partnering with the state and taking a more and more active role in the running of their city. The residents of Atlantic City deserve to have their elected officials taking care of their city and their residents. That's why they elected them. But they do need to continue down the road of smart fiscal management, clean and safe. You know, we go to those bi-weekly meetings every Friday morning. Mr. Berg is always there. And we are making progress in taking care of Atlantic City because we've joined together. What started out as maybe a half a dozen people has now grown to 30 or more people every other week talking about what can make Atlantic City independent and better for everyone.
Thank you. Let's stick with another Atlantic City issue. Liz, we'll start with Ms. Fitzpatrick on this question.
Should the casinos continue to be exempt from the state's ban on indoor smoking while every other business operates under it? If so, why?
Banning smoking in the Atlantic City casinos is a hot topic. Of course, I believe that everybody should be working in a safe and clean environment. Everybody deserves that, and nobody likes getting smoke blown in their face. We have some things to think about, though. We have 3 or 4 other states around us that can cannibalize our market if we don't all do it together as one compact group. Additionally, I was in Las Vegas recently and literally went sniffing around. You can't smell anything, and those people are smoking like chimneys. So I think that work done by the hotels could help alleviate this problem, actual separate areas for smoking if it becomes necessary. But first and foremost, people should be working in clean and safe environments.
Thank you. Mr. Palestina.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a supporter of this from the start. Corporate profits should not trump people's health. In this case, Pennsylvania should do it. We should do it. We all lived, you know, when it was banned in bars and restaurants, and, you know, it was all doom and gloom then, too. You know, bars and restaurants are going to go out of business, and, you know, because drinking and smoking go together, and they told us that all our bars were going to suffer. Didn't happen. Short-term impact, long-term. It's been great, and I think everybody is much happier going into bars and restaurants now, not having smoke in their clothes and going home smelling like smoke. So I think the same thing will happen with Atlantic City. Yes, Pennsylvania should do it too, but we got to move forward. People deserve a healthy work environment and clean air, and that is the bottom line. You go in those facilities now, and it hits you immediately. So I think we got to change that dynamic, and we got to move towards non-smoking indoor facilities everywhere.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask a question?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Thanks. So you've been in the Senate for 2 years, but nothing's happened.
Oh, no, there's a lot that has happened. And actually, there are bills in both the Senate and the Assembly where we have garnered more sponsors than are necessary to pass the bill. So in the Senate, there are 24 sponsors on the bill we've gotten. In the Assembly, there are 45 sponsors. You need 21 in the Senate, 41 in the Assembly. And so we have done a whole lot. Those bills get posted, It's done. We already have the votes there. And so we have whipped up support for this in the legislature, in the Senate, in the Assembly with Don Guardia and Claire Swift. The votes are there. We just got to get it posted. As soon as it gets posted, it's done. So we have done a lot to move this ball along and get it to the point where it's at.
When do you think that's going to be posted?
The last conversation I had in the last 2 weeks with the Senate President was after the election. So we've been out of there now since June, but once we go back, I'm told that the bills will be posted.
Thank you. Liz, this next question will start with Mr. Palestina.
Colleges everywhere are grappling with financial challenges related to declining enrollments, demographic trends, and low birth rates. Do you have any ideas how to keep New Jersey's colleges and universities affordable while providing a quality education?
Yeah, so this is, of course, a very important topic for me, having one that is a freshman now in college and 2 juniors in high school, something that we have, Carol and I have lived through for the last few years. And college education is extremely expensive. We all know it, to the point where people are making decisions: do I go to college and incur all that debt, or do I get trained and then I go get a job and not have to have all the debt? So we have got to get this dynamic turned around. There's really 2 things that have ballooned exponentially: college education and healthcare. Both of those areas, we got to figure out how can we reverse this trend and how can we make it more affordable. We have to have more support at the state level. I think Stockton University, to use that as an example, is a perfect example. Down here in South Jersey, we all know we haven't always gotten a fair share from North Jersey down here in South Jersey. And so Stockton historically has not gotten a fair amount of funding from Trenton. We've reversed that. We've started the progress, and this past year, Stockton University got the most money in the history of Stockton in order to offset some of those costs to make things more affordable for kids. And we got to continue that. We got to have more federal, more state support for higher education. It is incredibly important that we have an educated citizenry that can then contribute to society.
Thank you. Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. Definitely, college has become very expensive and too expensive for a large part of the population. A couple of ways to alleviate that would be to encourage people to start at the community college level and then transfer to a 4-year school. Also, keeping our population growing will bring more business in investment here to the county, where more people will be able to afford, based on lower taxes, because everybody's sharing the burden, people will be able to afford going to college. And there are also trainings available. For example, the green industry is the fastest growing job market in the state of New Jersey, and we have a fantastic opportunity with Atlantic Cape Community College to train wind turbine technicians. Starting salaries about $60,000 or $70,000 that can support a family.
Thank you. For those of you keeping score, we're just past the midway point here. And this next question will start with Ms. Fitzpatrick. Buzz?
The lack of affordable housing in a high-cost state like New Jersey is a perennial problem. That's particularly true in a tourism economy where workers struggle to afford a place to live. What should be done to mandate or incentivize more housing that the poor and middle class can afford?
Well, nobody likes to say it, but incentivizing development to include some low-income housing is a way to get investors to build, some market rate, some low income. We do have a terrible problem here. Rents are very high. If somebody can afford to pay some of the rents that are here in Atlantic County, they can probably afford to pay a mortgage. We need to get more investment. I keep saying it. We need to get more investment in the county because there's too few people trying to support everything. We need more people here.
Thank you. Mr. Palestina.
This is another farce from the Democrats in this state over the last 20 years. You have all seen it. You've all experienced it. Everything gets more costly, more costly, more costly. We have made we made everything in this state so unaffordable that you don't have affordable housing. The answer isn't to then start subsidizing some housing. We got to lower costs in every area, starting with property taxes like I talked about. And so you need to make it more affordable for people here. We need to do that statewide. You need to do it by making education funding more equitable so that every student is treated equally. Every student has an equal chance to succeed. And once you equalize the education funding, then you start talking about things like energy and costs related to that. The inflation that we've seen from Washington, D.C. is horribly challenging for people now. What caused that? Them spending so much money and incurring so much debt that it drove up inflation. We have to reverse these policies. One-party rule in Trenton clearly is making things more difficult for our families here. We got to have a check and balance, and we got to send some of us back to Trenton to be that check and balance.
Thank you.
I disagree. I think that Trenton recently has done a lot for working families. Inflation is caused by the fact that the whole country was shut down for 2 or 3 years with COVID pandemic. And, you know, supply chain issues, getting things delivered where they need to be, caused prices to go up because people wanted things that weren't available, and so things go to the highest bidder. I disagree with blaming the current federal government for that.
I do not. It is absolutely their problem. And in terms of Trenton, I mean, we have talked about the situation with property taxes since I've been an adult. It keeps kids from being able to start careers here, start families here. It keeps families who want to put food on the table from being able to afford to put food on the table. And it keeps seniors from staying here. It is an underlying fundamental problem in New Jersey. And to say that that is not Trenton's problem is just not accurate. Trenton has known about it, just like the federal government has known about the immigration system forever. You know, my entire adult life, they never dealt with it. Same thing in Trenton. One-party rule, they have not adequately dealt with the situation with property taxes in this state.
Thank you.
Property taxes definitely need new formulas. We have the best education system in the country, and that's paid for with property taxes. That formula needs to change so that schools get equitable funding and property taxes can be reduced.
You just said Trenton wasn't the problem, though.
Trenton's not the problem.
Well, Trenton comes up with the formulas. The governor proposes the budget, which has the school funding in it. Legislature approves that. That has come from Trenton in terms of the impact on property taxes forever.
I said I don't believe that the inflation is caused by Trenton or the federal government.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Liz, let's pose this question first to Mr. Palestina.
Earlier this month, a Superior Court judge ruled that New Jersey has intentionally failed to correct the persistent racial segregation in its public school system. How do you plan to address and combat continued segregation?
I mean, you have to make things equitable for everyone, just like I just talked about with the education funding. You know, from an educational standpoint, I think that every child deserves an equal start. And so you start from the framework that every child, regardless of what community you are in, regardless of, you know, who you are, where you're from, you get an equal start, and you get an equal opportunity, and you get an equal chance to succeed. That is the baseline. And then we do have some issues that we need to deal with in some communities, and you can add from there in terms of special needs or in terms of, you know, offering some other amenities in some communities. But we should first understand our country is a land of opportunity, and we got to give every child that equal opportunity. And I think if we do that, then you won't see as much of this issue where people live in certain communities and you get certain communities that are not segregated. That will fundamentally change the dynamic. If everybody has an equal chance in every community, that you will by nature have more integration.
Thank you. Ms. Fitzpatrick, your thoughts.
New Jersey is has the fourth highest rate of school segregation in the country. This is a huge problem, and again, property tax plays a big part in this. We need to figure out, it's part of the school funding system, that how to integrate schools so that everyone does get their fair shot and an equal footing in education. It's something that has been talked about. There's litigation in North Jersey parents suing the state because their child was not exposed to a racially diverse education. This is something that needs to be talked about seriously and handled.
Thank you. This next question, we'll start with Ms. Fitzpatrick. Buzz?
Our country is extremely polarized along partisan lines. What role do you see for bipartisan cooperation in our government, and what, if anything, have you done to pursue bipartisanship?
Well, I've been in the minority for 6 years, so I've had to be bipartisan to get anything accomplished on the Board of Commissioners. The partisanship in our government is terrible. People are polarized. People are divided. And I think that there is a group of the public who sees that as an opportunity. They try to be divisive. They stoke fear among people and try to keep us from talking to each other and getting along. This needs to be fixed, and I have made a lot of relationships, built a lot of relationships over the last 6 years that I've been on the Board of County Commissioners in all communities and trying to bring people together.
Mr. Palestina.
Thanks for the question, Buzz, because we have lived this here in Atlantic County for the last 2 years. The most bipartisan legislator in Trenton, getting things done for Atlantic County, whether it be prosecutor, judges, appointments to Stockton, appointments to SJTA, money for Atlantic Care and Stockton and the Aviation Research Park and transportation and boardwalk funds. We have done it in Atlantic County. I've been in the minority too. I mean, you guys say it. I'm a Republican in a Democratic administration and in a democratically controlled legislature. But I have done it. You've all seen me do it. And if you're going to be honest about it, you know that we have done it here in Atlantic County. And so when you want to talk about bipartisanship, you want to talk about the way to get things done, you want to talk about some of the ending some of the polarization, you got an example right here, because we have walked the walk, we have talked the talk, and we have a number of successes to point to in Atlantic County where you can say we were bipartisan, we work with both sides. Then you contrast that with the 6-year record of my opponent. I can't think of one single time where you could say that she worked across party lines to actually get something done. So look at my 2 years, look at her 6, and hopefully come to the right conclusion.
Ms. Fitzpatrick, your response.
Sure. So the judges and the prosecutor and the SJTA, those are appointments, not legislation. Just about anybody or every senator has an opportunity to do that. We had shortages, so you did. But what kind of legislation did you get passed?
We have a number of pieces of legislation. We passed legislation related to CRDA, working with the airport to do transportation stuff. Of course, you know, we were voting for the budget, voting for Anchor, voting for Stay New Jersey, voting for, you know, and hopefully we'll talk about it, $50 million in women's health care. And when you say that that's a senator does it everywhere, that is not true. You realize that there are vicinages in this state where they literally cannot have court proceedings because they don't have judges. They can't have divorces. They can't do other proceedings because they can't get the senator and the governor to agree, even when they're of the same party in some cases. So take a look at Atlantic County. Take a look at what we have done. Totally different than the other 39 districts in the state. And go ask the governor. Go ask Senate President Scutari, who has been working with them in a bipartisan fashion from the start. Keep in mind, they wanted a different prosecutor when we started this process. Took me 8 months, meetings, dialogues, conversations, other meetings. It took an eternity because they wanted somebody else. I thought it was important to have somebody from Atlantic County, and I fought for it. Number one
Thank you,
priority,
sir.
we got it done.
Thank you.
I think I misphrased my question.
Oh.
Legislation that you sponsored.
Well, there's a number of pieces. I don't have them right in front of me, but like when we talk about the CRDA collaborating with SJTA on transportation improvements from the airport to Atlantic City, when you talk about the casino smoking issue, when you talk about any number of pieces of legislation, they're not sitting here in front of me, but there have been a number of pieces of legislation that have gone through the process. And you
But
know,
not come up for a vote, Vince. Not come up for a vote.
I don't sponsor the legislation and then say, let's vote on it, Karen. The process is you introduce a piece of legislation It gets referred to whatever committee. The committee chair has the role of posting the vote, and then the Senate President has the role in posting it in the full Senate. We have developed a number of pieces of legislation that you know that come directly out of the Clean and Safe meetings that we've attended, whether it's the ability for police to interact with juveniles because of what is going on, whether it's this ATV issue. There are so many pieces of legislation that relate specifically to Atlantic County that we have introduced. Some have seen action, some have not seen action, but there is a whole list on file in the Senate that you can take a look at.
I have taken a look at that, and what I see is that they are there, they are proposed, but they're not getting out of committee, and that also would be a bipartisan action, which
Karen,
doesn't seem to be happening.
Folks,
Now listen,
folks.
hold on, John. We just did, literally just did, within the last month or two, the Boardwalk Preservation Fund, $100 million in the state of New Jersey. Bipartisan legislation sponsored by Senator Sarlo in North Jersey, in Bergen, and Senator Testa and I in South Jersey. Just literally, the governor came here and did the signing at Boardwalk Hall. So I don't know what you're looking at, but you might not be looking at the right website.
Folks,
Okay,
I'm
well,
going to
that's
try to
fine.
squeeze in two quick questions here before we go to closing statements, if you don't mind. Liz, please pose this question to Mr. Palestina.
With the worst of the COVID-19 crisis seemingly behind us, what lessons should we have learned from the pandemic, and are we prepared for another one if it comes?
So we're working on it. Very, very important topic, obviously. We lived through the pandemic, and I think when it first started, everybody was panicked and some decisions were made. When we look back, maybe we would make different decisions. But clearly, we need to be prepared and we need to be ready to deal with another one in the future if it were to come. Hopefully, it doesn't. But what have we done? Immediately started working with our healthcare community, principally Atlanticare, but also Shore Memorial. But we started working with Atlanticare and said, what can we do to better prepare our region in case we ever have to deal with another one? And Atlanticare said we want to do an $87 million expansion at the Galloway campus. We want to make sure we don't have any rooms with 2 beds. We want to make all individual suites. And this $87 million will give us the ability to do that. So if we ever have to deal with another pandemic, God forbid, everybody would then have their own individual suite, and you wouldn't have people double bunked. So
Thank you.
what did I, hold on, I get a minute.
Oh, I'm
What did
sorry.
I do? I went to Trenton and I said, number one priority this year, we got $10.3 million for Atlanticare to help for that expansion. That is what we are doing here in Atlantic County in order to improve situations like that. And I promise you, we are going to continue those efforts.
Now, thank you. Ms. Fitzpatrick.
So we learned a lot during the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. We learned that we can work from anywhere. And one of the thoughts that I have about increasing our population here in Atlantic County is to propose something that the states of Vermont, Indiana, and Kansas are doing, and that is live here, work there. People can work from anywhere. You incentivize somebody to come and move here. After a couple of years, they get part of an incentive. After a couple more years, they get another part of an incentive. They probably find a significant other and settle down and start paying property taxes and living and supporting our businesses here in South Jersey. We also learned that the movement of air keeps people from contracting COVID. I don't think that children need to be masked all day in their schoolrooms as long as they're kept apart, the 6-foot social distancing. So those are a couple of things that we've learned. We've been regularly, having vaccines, not mandating vaccines, and hopefully we won't have to go through that again.
Okay, this is our last question before closing statements. Buzz, would you pose it first to Ms. Fitzpatrick?
When state school aid figures were released last spring, Atlantic County District saw a nearly 11% boost in funding. But the county schools did not share equally in the increase, with 3 districts getting more, while 10 others saw a loss in funding. New Jersey lawmakers are currently considering tweaks to the funding formula to make the system more equitable. What do you believe is the fairest way to distribute funding to New Jersey schools?
Based on student population, not based on location, not based on municipality, not based on school district, but student population seems to be the most equitable to me. I think that would create fair budgeting, and each school district would have to accommodate all the students that they have. Some schools would probably lose some funding doing it that way, but I think that that's the most fair.
She agrees with me again, Buzz. We talk about this, so let me just talk about one of the other tenets of their campaign, which is total nonsense. They're using this ad that I'm against women's health care, and there was some vote in 2011 or 2010, 12 years ago, where I voted against $7.5 million that Governor Christie did not want from 12 years ago, 14 years ago. And they say that that closed the Women's Center. Guess when the Women's Center closed? This is 2010, 2011. Women's Center closed in 2017. You know why, Buzz? You know why? Report it in your paper, Buzz. Report it in your paper. Why the Women's Center that you see all these commercials about, which are, of course, as everyone knows, total nonsense. Women's Center closed because of safety, because it was in Atlantic City, and because the Women's Center could not operate safely, and they were concerned about their employees. What is going on here in this country from a public safety perspective? Just like parents need to be involved, we have got to reverse this discourse against law enforcement. We have got to support law enforcement. They are doing a complete fraudulent campaign over an issue that is related to public safety in the city of Atlantic City. I have said we need to collaborate, coordinate, communicate as it relates to the public safety in the city of Atlantic City. That is what needs to happen. And when we do that, under our leadership with Don Guardian and Claire Swift, we will have women's centers back here because they're going to be safe again. So let's stop with the fraudulent campaign. We acknowledge it's a fraudulent campaign?
No, absolutely
Okay.
not.
All right, let's move on to closing statements then.
No, I think I get to respond to that, right?
Go
John?
ahead.
So, first of all, Planned Parenthood, closed.
2017.
Okay, 2017. Was it that late?
Yeah.
But they didn't have the money to relocate. And in the time that they were closed, you know, Planned Parenthood just doesn't provide access to affordable health care, reproductive health care, but breast cancer screenings, cervical cancer screenings. And in the time that that center was closed, breast cancer and cervical cancer diagnoses increased as much as 25%, depending on the ethnicity of the women we're talking about. So that was definitely a detriment on poor women who didn't have private doctors or insurance and couldn't afford to get accessible health care. So that's something that happened when you voted against that budget.
Oh, listen, Karen, the budget, look at the governor's statement on the budget. Look at the governor's statement. This is the
I'm
Democratic governor.
talking about the
Your governor.
2010 budget.
No. Look at since I've been the senator for 2 years, $50 million. He reported, I didn't, $50 million in women's health care and women's centers and all this stuff. That's what I voted for since I've been the senator. This thing with Planned Parenthood in 2017, when I wasn't even there, I was out of office. Read the article in the Press of Atlantic City. It closed because of public safety. It was not related to budgets. It was not related to money. Quoted in the article, the person who ran the center closed because of public safety. Now let's stop. Let's stop this defund the police and all this nonsense that creates this discourse where we're not supporting law enforcement. Let's get back to understanding they're there to protect us. We've got to support them every single day. They go out and put their lives on the line, and we have got to stop this situation we see in this country.
I don't think that relates to the Planned Parenthood office closing and not being able to relocate. However, I do support police. I've always supported every vote that came up regarding public safety and funding. What a problem is in Atlantic City, the police force is constantly short-staffed because they hire them, they train them, they make them full-time, and guess what? They go to suburban police forces that pay a lot more money. The starting salary for a cop in Atlantic City is $65,000, and I feel that that is not enough money to put a gun on your hip and probably maybe have to take a shot during the day. That's not enough money to put your life on the line.
Thank
we
you.
need to support our police and increase their funding.
Thank you. There's been a great exchange. We're going to go now to 1-minute closing statements. And based on a coin flip, Mr. Palestina, you will go first.
Well, again, I want to thank everybody who came to the debate, thank everybody who put on the debate. Obviously, there's a great forums to hear the differences, and I think you heard some pretty stark differences. We are going to be, from our standpoint, pro-parent, pro-family, pro-law enforcement, pro-worker, everybody pro-child from an educational standpoint. Everybody deserves an equal opportunity in this state, and we are going to support those initiatives that give everyone an opportunity to succeed. I want to thank my wife, Carolyn, of course. Here I go again. I want to thank my wife, Carolyn, for everything that she goes through. Of course, takes a lot of time to do this. I've always focused on getting things done. I will continue to focus on getting things done. That is what it is all about for me, and you have seen that. If you want to be an honest broker in this county, you want to take a look at what has happened over the last 2 years, we have gotten a number of things done. And so thank you, Carolyn, for allowing me to take the time to do it. I've loved it. I've had the privilege to serve you. I enjoyed every minute. And if you give me the opportunity, I'm going to go back there and do an even better job for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, John. So I started running for a political office in 2017 because I didn't feel like my representatives represented me. I still feel that way in this case. I have spent my time, as I said, building relationships all over the county so that I can firsthand hear and see what our residents need and want in their lives. And I have been able to provide a lot of that through community work and also on the Board of County Commissioners. We do have stark differences. This is a great forum to be able to show them the differences between Mr. Palestina and myself. We just do things differently. I've been a financial professional for 25 years. I've known how to get things done without breaking the bank. I'm completely versed in budgeting and prioritizing spending, and I want to take that to the Senate. And I respectfully ask for your vote on November 7th. And thank you to the press and Stockton University, my alma mater.
I want to thank the candidates for a substantive, civil, and thoughtful debate. Let's hear it for them.
Thank you.
We are going to take a short break, and we'll be back with the Assembly debate. Hello? Okay. All right, folks, welcome back to our Second District Assembly candidates debate. The rules are the same in terms of time and order, which was selected by a coin flip. And so let me introduce our candidates. To the audience's left are the Democratic candidates, Lisa Bender and Alfonso Harrell. And on the right side of the stage, from your perspective, are the Republican incumbents, Assembly members Don Guardian and Claire Swift. So thank you for being here. And based on that coin flip I mentioned, Ms. Bender, you will answer the first question first.
Okay.
And Liz, you can begin.
If you are elected, what would be your legislative priorities in the coming term?
Thank you. My legislative priorities, my number one actually kind of has three parts. I know that affordability is a major issue in our area. We all feel that pinch when we go to the grocery store and, really in all aspects of our life. So I believe there's a way to address that. Since we can't really fight inflation, at this level, we will definitely have an opportunity to increase income levels of people that live here in Atlantic County. We can do that by bringing good paying union jobs here. And with those jobs, we also have jobs available already. So the second part of that is I would want to have education component and better fund our community colleges because there haven't been any increase in funding over the last decade. So I want to increase those opportunities for certificate programs and associate's degrees to actually educate the people for the jobs that we already have here so the people here can get those good paying union jobs and the jobs that we already have in the area. So then the final thing is transportation and make sure people can access both education and their jobs.
Thank you. Mr. Howell, your legislative priorities if elected.
Yes, my priorities would be basically the same as Lisa's. As an educator, I think we need to incentivize how we get teachers into the profession. We lose them at an alarming rate. Also, I believe the mental health services and affordable health care is something that is a priority for me. Also, I believe the veteran services is something that's needed because I am a Marine Corps veteran, disabled, and I believe some of these things are very needed. I know the issues that we have now being an educator is very hard on us. Mental health services are definitely needed. So these are some of the issues that I would like to face and tackle when I get there to the State House.
Thank you. Mr. Guardian.
So everyone is concerned about the cost. I think the anchor program has been excellent. That's why we voted for it for the last 2 years, to give $1,500 back to people that have property that live in our state. We voted for the first year for the money that will come to senior citizens, paying 50% of their taxes starting in 2025. I think creating new jobs that people haven't gotten yet, that we can open the door for. So esports and clean energy, cybersecurity, next generation aviation, those are all good paying jobs. We have the ability to move them forward. And then finally, I think safety is a crisis for everyone. So to have enough policing is very important, but we also have to address the other issues that come with it. That's making sure that we have funding for both substance abuse and for mental health.
And Ms. Swift.
Well, thank you for having me here today and having all of us here. This is a great opportunity to get out the issues, to let you know what our positions are. I'm a lifelong resident of Atlantic County, born and raised here. I went to high school here at the old Atlantic City High School. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a business owner, I'm a local attorney, and I'm passionate about helping the residents of Atlantic County. I want to continue to do that work in the next 2 years, continue to bring millions and millions of dollars here to Atlantic County. Money for Atlanticare, money for Stockton, money for bridges and roads and our beautiful boardwalk that needs help and repair. So as your assemblywoman, I want to continue to do that, help with child tax credits, help it be more affordable here in New Jersey. I understand what it costs to raise 3 children. I've got my son Tony with me today. The cost of food, electric, utilities, it's really unaffordable, but I'm so proud that we voted to get the anchor property tax relief here, and the residents of Atlantic County have saved millions of dollars in property tax relief.
Thank you. Buzz, on this next question, we'll start with Mr. Howell.
Allegations of corruption by public officials at both the federal and local levels in New Jersey made headlines recently and raised questions about what to do when individuals on public payroll are charged or convicted. A state bill would require elected officials under indictment to be suspended from office and, if they're convicted, to be removed. How would you address this issue?
I believe when you run for these positions, politics have become so toxic that you don't even get good candidates to run for these positions because you can't get anyone to run. I choose to run because we need good, honest people. And if someone is not doing the right thing and we're hurting the people for our own good, that's not what we need in the Constitution and where we work. It's just not feasible. So if you do something wrong, you should be penalized. Yes, I do believe you should be penalized, and that's not what we're there for. We're here for the people sitting out here in this audience. We're there to serve the public. Titles are only temporary, but what you say resonates with people. So if you're doing the wrong thing and double talking, that's not what we need. We need honest, caring people that care.
Mr. Guardian, your turn.
So I think when you move into an elected official position, there's a higher standard that's expected of you. I absolutely agree that you should be dealing with corruption by removing them from office if they're found guilty, and certainly suspending them while you're waiting to find out if they are guilty.
Thank you. Ms. Swift.
Well, I think what we all know what we're talking about today. It's Senator Menendez, who was just recently indicted, along with his wife and co-conspirators, for having hundreds of thousands of cash and gold bonds in their house. He should immediately be removed from office. Elected officials have a higher standard. We're here to represent the people of our district. And the fact that he's been indicted and that he had gold bars and he has co-conspirators, he should be taken out of office immediately and charged just like any other criminal.
And Ms. Bender.
Yes, I agree. We all know we Democrats have called for the Senator Menendez to step down, and I know that he hasn't done that, but it's something we strongly believe in, and we all share that belief. I, of course, believe that everyone needs to have faith in their elected officials. When we elect them, if they hopefully don't have a record when they're running, we should trust that they are going to keep that great record of being a good person and working to serve the people that elected them and all of the people in their district. So if they can't do that, if they break the law and they are under investigation, even though you're innocent until proven guilty, it does sow a little bit of doubt and a little bit of concern in the people that are leading them. So we absolutely have to consider that you'd have a suspension for the people until they're able to go to trial and find out if they're convicted or not. So I believe that it's all really about having faith in your elected officials. And that's why we're here today. We're good people. We are running because we care about the people we represent. We are not here to serve ourselves. So we would never be in that position, but I believe that's a good idea.
Thank you. Buzz, we'll start on this one with Mr. Guardian.
We'll get the climate change policy overall in a moment, but specifically here, do you support or oppose building wind turbines off the New Jersey coast, and what are the reasons for your position?
So you look at the bigger picture, and that is we all want to get to cleaner energy that we can actually afford. And so there are plenty of options, green hydrogen, nuclear, mini nuclear, solar panels, all those are good. Wind turbines right now have too many questions that are unanswered. So we just need to have a little stop. We've seen what happened when they built them in Rhode Island, only 3.5 miles out, and the cables broke several times. They told us they could build these and not ask us for any more money, but they needed $1 billion. They haven't built the first one yet, still can't tell us about the energy. Answer these questions, answer how it's going to affect our fish and fishing industry and things, and then we can move ahead with whether or not wind energy is good for us.
Ms. Swift.
Again, I'm a lifelong resident of Atlantic County, growing up at the shore, and I have never in my entire life seen anything that we've seen in the last year. Dead whales, dead baby whales, because they believe that the baby whales are losing their mother and they can't get food and they're landing on our shores. Dead dolphins, dead sharks within 1 year time. Okay? Besides that, most importantly, we do not know what the cost of these windmills are going to be. We were up in Trenton on June 30th, and all the Republicans voted against a $1 billion bailout for these windmills. If they need $1 billion today, what are they going to need in the next couple of years? It doesn't make fiscal sense. There's already other companies that have pulled out from the windmills because it's fiscally not working out. So, and on top of that, we don't know if we're going to save any money with energy. So the fact that you want to put hundreds and thousands of windmills in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean does not make sense. We have to take a pause. We have to stop what's happening, do more research to find out if this is going to cost money and if it is indeed destroying our wildlife in the ocean.
Ms. Bender, your thoughts on wind turbines?
Yes. As a marine scientist, I really understand the need to embrace clean, renewable energy and wean ourselves off of fossil fuels. This wind farm is not only a benefit to the environment, it is a huge boost to our economy here in South Jersey. It would be an absolute mistake to try to take this opportunity away because we may not get it again. So we will have good paying union jobs here. The green jobs are actually the #1 growing segment of New Jersey's economy. So if we miss this boat, we are not getting our fair share down here in South Jersey. We have to make sure this happens. Additionally, the port in Salem is going to be it's already an amazing structure that enables the creation of these massive structures, and they are going to serve the entire eastern seaboard. So if New Jersey passes this opportunity, the next state's picking it up. There's leases all up and down. So we have the opportunity to be the place that serves the entire eastern seaboard and the construction of these wind farms. So I absolutely do not want to miss the opportunity, and no one here should.
Mr. Howe.
Yes, as an educator, there's one thing that we do constantly. We read and we fact-base our information. I believe what they're talking about is a fallacy. I haven't read anything that said that it's killing the dolphins, it's killing the species. We know that global warming is real. Warm water creates spawning for animals. Warm water breeds and creates food, the ecosystem. They come in closer. I have not heard that. That's not fact-based. We need to talk about the real information here. You know, it's going to bring affordability, it's going to bring jobs to the community, and it's something that is much needed. We are going to be an electric-driven country soon. I mean, it's not any time in the future. I mean, it's going to take a while, but we have to read and research. We can't just believe what someone is saying. It's misinformation. We need to educate ourselves to understand that that's not the reason why these whales are dying. That is not the reason. I just do not believe that. We need to come to a general consensus and understand that's not correct.
As a follow-up to that, are you confident that wind energy would save money or at least be a financial wash for ratepayers?
We'll go back to Mr. Guardian for that.
Certainly. No, I do not believe that. Even from the beginning, they told us that it was going to add $2 a month to our electric bills. I think we were all willing to live with that 5 years ago. But they also said they would be able to bill them and that any cost increases they'd be able to take on. But Orsted now came back and begged for $1 billion that they received before they even started building. They still can't tell us how much it's going to cost to produce the energy. These are questions that we have to answer. All of these questions that I have and my concerns about wind energy is how are we going to be able to afford to have energy in the future. And wind energy may help, but at this point it's not proven that. So let's take a break. Let's get the questions answered. Then we can find out whether or not it's going to be a financially sound and cheaper form of energy.
Ms. Swift.
You know, a couple years ago when people were asked, oh, are you into windmills and, you know, alternative energy, everyone said yes, yes. Just in the last 6 months, when people were asked, you want these wind turbines in the middle of the ocean, and it may not cost you money, the consensus went down. People said, we can't afford this. We are in a day and an age right now where people can't pay for food. If you're going to tell them that their electric bills are going to go up, they're not for it. So if we need to stop, take a pause, do more research, and I do research. I'm an attorney, and we need to figure out if this is going to cost money to build them and if it's going to cost us more money on our utility bills. Because if that's the case, I don't think anybody's going to go for that.
Ms. Bender.
Again, it's an opportunity that we can't pass up for what it can do for our economy in general, and it will be increasing our wealth and our income levels because of the jobs that it's going to bring to our area. But that being said, on the flip side, our energy infrastructure is already very old. It is old, it is failing, and we have already seen costs rise in our electric bills just to try to keep up with what we already have. So that is already an increasing cost. So this is going to be something that's new. It's going to be something that will eventually cost us less because it's going to be just the right way to do in the wave of the future. Fossil fuels are not renewable. They are going to become scarce. Costs are going to increase. So we 100% need to at least take steps to use this renewable, clean source of energy. And also, it's not like we're all of a sudden just going to wind or solar. It is going to be it's going to meet a portion of our energy needs. And that, if it costs slightly more, perhaps we can take care of it with tax incentives and things like that. But it is something that we need to do. It's just too costly to not do it.
And Mr. Howell, your thoughts on the finances?
Well, we all have vehicles here. If you go to the gas station and fill your car up, it costs you about $60. If you have an electric vehicle, it costs you dollars. I mean, the price is a big difference. So we're talking about moving forward with something that is going to save everybody money. So I disagree with my opponents with what they're saying, because if you go electric, it will be cost effective. Fossil fuels are polluting the climate. We know that. But all of these misbeliefs, again, it's not data driven and it's not proven what they're saying. But I know electric vehicle is much less cost than it is to fill up your car with gas. So you go figure.
Thank you. Liz, your next question will start with Ms. Swift.
The current administration has made ambitious proposals to combat climate change regarding emissions, flooding, and electric vehicles. Do you think such strong action is needed to protect the environment, or is the governor going too far or too fast?
I believe that the government is going too fast on this. I can tell you that I don't think that this state is going to be electrified in 10 years. I don't think that we can afford it. I don't think that you can mandate people to have electric stoves and electric cars. Nobody talks about an electric dryer. I use my dryer every day. I've got 3 kids. I can't imagine not being able to use my gas dryer and being forced to lose my gas dryer, because you're not going to make any money on it, and buy an electric dryer. So let's get realistic. Let's get into reality. We can't do this too soon. I'm all about reusable energy, but we have to take a pause. I've got solar panels at my house. I've got solar panels at my law office. It saved us money. Let's start in baby steps instead of doing things that are so far-reaching and so extreme that it doesn't make sense to the taxpayers of New Jersey and Atlantic County.
Ms. Bender.
Again, as a marine scientist, I understand the need for this clean energy, and that's really the purpose of this discussion even that's happening about electrification, because basically when we have renewable energy, it's going to be in the form of electric, not gas. So they're just suggesting that ultimately we move towards electric appliances so that when we're using electric, that clean energy there, we have the appliances to do that. However, as a business owner and a consumer, I understand that we don't like mandates. We do not need to mandate this. It should be an incentive program. And eventually, people are going to see the benefits, and so they're going to make the choice that's best for them to begin with. So I don't believe in mandates. I do believe there is an issue with affordability when it comes to this too, and it could be a condition of equity if we're mandating that people have to go to electric because it is expensive. However, to clarify and correct, you do not have to change your appliances you already have in your house. No one is coming in and saying you have to take out your gas stove or your gas water heater or your gas dryer. That is not what this issue is about. But either way, I don't agree with the mandates, but I just want to be clear. No one is stealing your appliances or making you get a new car.
Mr. Harrell.
Yes, this is something that has to be thought out and planned correctly. But however, it's still cost effective. Once again, if people, my opponent mentioned solar panels. We all know if we have solar panels that the cost of the energy is much less than using gas-powered appliances in your house. So therefore, they are kind of in an agreement, but this is not going to happen overnight, as I mentioned again. It's going to take time. Our infrastructure needs to be capable of handling all of that electric usage. However, this is the way we have to move forward for the climate and for us as human beings. We see how the weather is changing. This is all effective due to the fossil fuels that are burning in the air. So we know. We have to read and do the research.
May I respond since he mentioned me? Putting solar panels on a house and a building is a lot different than putting in hundreds of windmills in the middle of the ocean. How are we going to maintain the cable lines and the propellers? So you're like comparing apples and oranges. We need to take baby steps and do what's right for New Jersey and what's going to be affordable for New Jersey.
May I respond?
Let's work in, Mr. Guardian. Your thoughts on this question?
Thank you. So climate change is with us. I fully agree. I think we all do on that, and we've got to find ways to deal with that. I think we're all good with solar panels. The only thing I'd add is what we're building in New Jersey is more homes that are connected. If you don't own your roof, you can't do solar panels. We need to change the legislation so condo associations can be part of the solution too. I'm proud that we passed 2 bills to provide funding for the GPU, not just jump ahead and build these things, but find out if geothermal is financially sound for a home. That's what they're studying right now, because that's a great way to heat a home very clean. The same thing with wave energy in its infancy, but we're asking to allow the steel pier, who has agreed to test the system, to put wave energy on the pier and see whether or not it's one of the ways that we can improve the issues of climate change.
Thank you. Liz, we'll start with Ms. Bender on your question now.
Politicians from both major parties voiced strong opposition when the Biden administration floated the idea of housing migrants at Atlantic City Airport, despite previous calls for New Jersey to be a sanctuary state. What's the right balance between New Jersey's tradition of welcoming immigrants and refugees and dealing with massive waves of new people?
Nobody can deny that the migrant issue is a big problem for our country, but having everybody land in this area is not the right answer. Atlantic County has its own economic complexities. We are an area in transition. We are already here working hard to lift up the people that live here. We already have a situation with, the socioeconomic status of many of our citizens. So we need to work first on the people that live here. Additionally, if this were to ever come into fruition, it would have to be something that was a plan. We cannot just bring a bunch of migrants here and say, here they are, take care of them. We would have to feed, clothe, provide medication, and give social services. And that is not something we're equipped to do. So if this were to ever actually come to be something that's talked about, we would need to have a coalition, it would need to be discussions, we would need to have an action plan and support from the federal government.
All right, Mr. Howell.
Yes, migrants are always welcome. We call ourselves America, the land of the free, so we do want them to come. They are the workers that pick the blueberries. They are the ones that pick the oranges. Without them, we wouldn't have that growth in the crops, because nobody in America wants to do that. No American citizen is willing to do that. So we do welcome them, but I do think that it needs to be a process for them to enter into our country. Do it the right way, and we welcome you. The way they're coming in sometimes is not the correct way, but we have to come up with a strategic plan to make sure that it is happening and it is happening properly, because we do need them as the workers. They're human just like we are, maybe from a different country, but they need work just like we do. Fair is fair.
Mr. Guardian.
So we're a nation of immigrants. I'm the first generation on my mother's side, second on my father's side. We thrive on immigrants to move this country forward, but the question is the undocumented immigrants and the concept of even considering bringing in 60,000 and putting them at the Atlantic City Airport just don't have the infrastructure for that. Everyone's on agreement with that, all the way up to the governor himself. What you should know is that in this budget, there's $25 million that the state is funding to try to deal with the immigrants that are already here, undocumented and immigrants that are here, to help find them housing, to help find them jobs, to help make sure the kids go to school, make sure they have educational benefits. So we're not just closing our doors or not realizing that they're here, but we need a national program that closes our borders and brings in a reasonable amount of immigrants that want to become Americans.
And Ms. Swift.
Thank you. I, too, am the second generation. My grandfather was an immigrant from Ireland, and he came here legally, worked hard, and contributed. When we received notice that there were going to be 60,000 illegal immigrants brought to the Egg Harbor Township Airport, we thought it was preposterous. All the Republicans, all the Democrats, even the governor of New Jersey agreed that we cannot sustain 60,000 more people here. As you heard before, there's a housing crisis here in Atlantic County. It's also inhumane to put these people at the airport. There's nowhere for them to go. They can't walk the streets. New York is more equipped to handle them than we are. But we can't let Joe Biden's failed policy at the border be our problem here in Atlantic County. It's not fair, and thank God we all stood together and this is not going to happen.
Thank you. All right, Buzz, this next question will start with Mr. Harrell.
New Jersey has the highest property taxes in the nation. The Anchor program, which replaced the homestead rebate, provides checks to qualifying homeowners and renters, and the Stay NJ program is supposed to provide rebates to seniors starting in 2026. Do you think this is an effective way to provide property tax relief?
I think it's a start. I mean, as you get older, you don't have that type of residual income that you had when you had an active job. So for the older folks, it is a good thing because as we see, as you get older and you go into your senior years, a lot of people are leaving New Jersey. So we need to incentivize to make sure that we keep our seniors here. New Jersey is a high populated density state. So we want to make sure that we keep and attract the people here staying here. But we can't penalize people for moving out of New Jersey because they want a better quality of life because the cost of living is so high here in New Jersey. And Atlantic County is one of the poorest counties in the state of New Jersey. So we need to get our fair share of affordability. So it's a great start.
Mr. Garding, you're next.
So everyone talks about putting money in your pocket. Anchor program did. That's why the three of us voted for it last year. That's why we voted for it this year. And we voted for the first of 3 years that we have to provide the funding to make sure that we can pick up 50% of all the taxes for people that are going to be 65 years or older in 2025, so they can consider living in New Jersey rather than moving out. We're reducing by 2.5% the commercial taxes that they pay right now, effective January 1. We have 20% more going to individual municipalities through the energy excise tax. And I'm assuming we're going to have a question on school funding, but with $50 million more for our schools, that's part of the solution for how we properly fund all of the children in New Jersey.
Ms. Swift.
Well, I don't have to remind you that Senator Vince Palestina, Don Guardian, and I were the only Republicans that voted for this Anchor program in 2022. We again voted it with some other Republicans in 2023. This has been one of the best things that has come to New Jersey, especially Atlantic County. We've helped people put millions of dollars in their pocket with the Anchor program. The money came out in April, and recently there's money coming out for this year. It just came in early. Proud to support New Jersey Stay for seniors, helping seniors with their senior freeze on their property taxes, and also helping veterans. A lot of veterans don't have resources on how they can get property tax relief with their house. So we're happy to help them with that. And if we continue to do programs like that and getting awareness out there, we can really make a difference here in Atlantic County, as we did in the last 2 years.
And Ms. Bender.
Yes, I think Anchor, Senior Freeze, and Stay on J are great because we do have very high property taxes in New Jersey, and that is a concern. One of the things that, sorry, it's a way to address affordable housing costs for sure. So we need to make sure that we keep those in. They do help renters as well. And the problem with New Jersey, and they were talking about it at the Senate debate, is about having people here in our population. So we definitely need to have property tax relief because it will incentivize people to come. On a personal note, my husband and I have a house here in Summers Point, and we raise our kids there. And we want to keep that house. We love that house. It's our family house, but it was never even thought of that we'd be able to afford the property taxes here. Once we're retired and things like that. So it's 100% been a great way to keep people here. And the more people we have here that stay here, we don't want to lose those that have ties to their communities. So we need to make sure that we keep this program. And if we don't vote for Democrats in this election, we could lose the House, and this Stay in J could go away before it even starts.
Thank you. Buzz, let's start with Mr. Guardian on this next question.
New Jersey legalized adult-use recreational marijuana about a year ago, but the dispensary approval process and the benefits in minority communities have been slow to come. What, if any, reforms to the regulatory system would you support?
So I didn't vote for legalizing marijuana myself, but it is the law of the land, and I need to support that. We're working with each community a little bit different. We have a mayor that wants to have marijuana dispensaries and growing marijuana in their community. We need to do everything we can to find additional funding to help them be successful. And again, for the mayor and council that doesn't want it, we need to respect their ability as well.
Ms. Swift.
Can you repeat that question?
New Jersey legalized adult-use recreational marijuana a year ago, but the dispensary approval process and the benefits in minority communities have been slow to come. What, if any, reforms to the regulatory system would you support?
Well, again, I was not here and I did not vote to legalize marijuana. What I can tell you is that the governor did try to mandate, reforming the ABC law, and I think that that's where you're going with the marijuana. People are opposed to having marijuana in their communities. I'm not going to kid you. They vote for it, but then they don't want it in their communities. And I've seen firsthand city council meetings when there's very tumultuous situations. But when the governor tried to mandate the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission, making it blanket for everybody, that does not work. People buy these licenses on the expectation that they are going to have revenue and they live their lives on that. So I do not believe on any mandates on anybody, and we do have to, unfortunately with the marijuana, it can be a problem in some communities.
Ms. Bender, your thoughts on marijuana regulatory system?
Yes, instead of talking about the marijuana issue, since it is illegal and it is happening, I just want to address what the question asked about reforming the system. So as a sustainability consultant, I've worked for a number of communities in both Cape May and Atlantic County, and part of the sustainability program and Sustainable Jersey is to streamline government. It's something that I worked very hard to do, and not to much success, unfortunately. But in my particular town where I didn't work, I was a volunteer. Let me just clear that up. But I always promote it, and I think streamlining government is a huge way. We cannot be stopping things from progressing because people are afraid of change. We shouldn't have to send them to individual offices of government. We need to have government forms on websites. We need to make websites easy to read and navigate. And we just absolutely need to streamline government, get this through, let people get their licenses and get moving. This is a great opportunity for our communities. It helps them. The tax that goes back to, the sales tax that goes back to communities is very beneficial. And I get that it's a not my backyard thing, but it's legal, it's here. They need to streamline it and let people get moving so we can have this great economic, industry here in New Jersey.
Okay, Mr. Howell.
I think that they are beneficial, but as the question was stated, it's not fair for the minorities. I think we should have a share of that also. If we want to be equitable, it has to be fair. I mean, most of these dispensaries, some of them are placed in the low impoverished areas. I mean, where's the equality there? We need to be fair, and we need to make sure that that minority people that want to own a dispensary should be able to do that without all the roadblocks that they do have. So it's a good program, and many states have legalized it, so it's not like we can stop it, it's happening. So we just need to be fair and equitable, and we need our fair share in Atlantic County.
Thank you. Liz, you've mentioned to me that this next topic is of particular concern to many of the students you know at Stockton. Would you please pose this question first to Ms. Swift?
You've got it, John. In light of growing political extremism and social unrest, many young Americans worry that our nation's democracy is on the verge of collapse. How do you respond to the claim that America is losing its democratic status? What will you do to help combat these concerning political trends in the U.S.?
Well, I think, the biggest thing we need to do is we need to have more bipartisan communications between two parties. It's so polarized. And what I could tell you is that when we started this campaign, we sent out positive ads, we sent out positive flyers, and just to get the message out as to what we've done. In the last couple of weeks, our opponents have sent out the most awful text messaging, flyers, TV commercials that are really not fit for children to watch against Senator Vince Palestina. So because they can't run on their issues, they've got to criticize us for things that we've not done. They try to associate Senator Vince Palestina with a senator in Salem County for statements he made 10 years ago. It's far-reaching. It's horrible and disgusting. And just like Mr. Frogen said 2 years ago, you go after someone who's highly reputable in this community, like Senator Vince Palestina, Don Guardy, and us, it's going to backfire on you because people here know the truth. And the fact that our opponents let this stuff go out, and they're going to tell you it's a PAC and they have nothing to do with it. If they can't control their flyers and their TV commercials, how are they going to control their vote in Trenton? They're not going to be able to.
Ms. Bender.
All right, well, I'd like to address the actual question, but first I need to address that she's saying that we cannot control what what people are putting out against our opponents. We have no control over that. That is a Citizens United issue. It is, the Supreme Court decided that it is free speech for political campaigns, and these independent expenditures do it on their own. We are legally not allowed to talk to them. We don't know what's going on. They are sent out. We don't control it. So I just want to make that very clear. The second about the issue, extremism is divisive. So that's why when you are going to vote and you're learning about your candidates, you choose people that are good people, that they are choosing to do this because they care about the people they represent. We are not going to do this as politicians. We are doing this as public servants. That's what I'm doing. I'm going because I care about my community. I have a record of community service, public service. I was an AmeriCorps volunteer. And so I am going to the State House to represent the people here. I will work together to benefit the people of Atlantic County, and I am not going there to take on extreme views opposing anything on the other side. I want to work together, and that's what I will do when I get there.
Mr. Howe.
I totally agree with what my running mate is saying. However, the ads, we do not have any control over that. But I can tell you one thing. I'm an educator and a veteran. I know what serving the country means. I know what serving the community means. I'm running on honesty and pure heart. You have to have a heart and not a senseless brain that just dehumanizes people by saying things that are not true. We're running on loyalty, honesty, and credibility. And that's why I'm standing in front of you now running as an assemblyman, because I decided to take the challenge and put my name out there. We are not doing anything that is disrespectful because I don't believe we should. We don't need to. We're running on truth, facts, not fallacies and miseducated information.
Mr. Guardian.
So we found out since World War II there are a lot of countries that don't want a democratic republic. We've tried to give it to them. They've rejected it. But here, we are a democracy. We love being a democratic republic. From our founding fathers, they worked on making a more perfect union. We are not there yet. It is our job to continue to work toward that. Alfonso mentioned he and so many other Americans have fought to keep democracy alive in this country. We respect the service they gave us, and we respect the fact that we have the joy of being a democracy. I think I can tell you with this is that as we go to Trenton, it is not like Washington, D.C. People get along very well. I have more friends that are Democrats than Republicans because there are more Democrats than Republicans in the State House, and we'd never get any of the programs done without working together. But democracy is a great form of government. This is a great country. It's not good enough yet, though, so we have to make sure it's good for everyone.
Thank you. Liz, let's start with Ms. Bender on this question.
Do you support or oppose the continued oversight by the state of the City of Atlantic City? What conditions should the city meet before it returns to self-governing?
Thank you. It is a complex issue. I worked for the city, well, I was a subcontractor, I should say, for the city of Atlantic City before it went to state oversight, when Don Guardian was mayor, and helped with energy programs and wanting to make it more affordable for people that live here. We really worked at a grassroots level and tried to help the individual people because we saw that everyone was suffering. So I understand and saw firsthand. I was at civic association meetings and learning what people were struggling with, and that's why we were trying to help with our energy program. So I do understand that the state did take it over, and it's a shame because what it ended up doing to try to stop this was, defunding police, defunding fire departments, and a lot of families that I know personally. My husband's a firefighter, and we have a lot of friends that are police and fire, and it really was a shame because a lot of people did either lose their jobs or lose their salaries. So right now, I feel like as long as the state is still doing good jobs, we have good work, but we have a little bit to go. I do not think it should be inevitable always this way, but I think right now we need to see a little bit more progress before it's put back into the hands of government, the local government.
Mr. Harrell.
I think sometime that when leaders take on the position, there's a lot of financial challenges that are already existing. However, state should be in to monitor it, but it should not be something that is long-lasting, because that's why we elect officials to run a city or a town. We elect them to do the job, but it takes time and it takes help. So having a state-monitored city is not something that should be long-term. It should be corrective actions consistently to ensure that you turn it back over to the leader of that city or town.
Mr. Guardian.
I've been against the oversight from the very beginning. Neither this governor or the last governor has the right to override the people of Atlantic City to vote on the people that they want to run their city. They've been here 6 years. Before I left as mayor, we reduced the budget by $40 million. They've been here 6 years because they were going to help us financially. They haven't reduced that budget. We need to find an exit strategy to send the people that are here back to Trenton. We do need to have a little bit of oversight. We're all worried about additional money coming in. But with that, I think the most important thing, as we look at the pilot, coming to an end, we've got to look at the funding that's coming to the city, and we have to rethink what's going on with CRDA. Because the people of Atlantic City, the poor people of Atlantic City, were promised a better life. 45 years later, they still haven't received it. Let's figure out how we can get the money from CRDA and the casinos directly into the hands of the poorest people that live in Atlantic City and help them continue to live here in their own homes, not in housing that they don't want to live in that's unfit for human beings.
And Ms. Swift.
I mean, I support the state oversight, but more as a partnership than, taking total control, because until we have good leadership in Atlantic City, like Mayor Guardian, we've got some work to do. The city can't sustain itself. I mean, look at the roads. You've driven in here. I mean, look at the boardwalk. Look at the lights. Lights aren't even synchronized. We need more fiscal responsibility here in Atlantic City. And we need to get more police on the streets to make it safe and clean, because if Atlantic City is not safe and clean, businesses are not going to want to come here. You can't even keep a supermarket here. Families are not going to want to come here. So, I support the state oversight on a limited basis, like Assemblyman Don Guardian said, but more of a partnership, so we can do more to make Atlantic City improve. And look at Stockton University. We're moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Buzz, let's direct this one first to Mr. Howell.
As a follow-up, A press reader asked when the casinos should move back to paying property taxes instead of pilot or payment in lieu of taxes.
I think once casinos reach their net goal of profit, that they should pay back to the community. Atlantic County is one of the poorest, as I mentioned before, so we need that money back into our towns. It should not be a profit gain for them consistently. Most companies that come in and build on these cities and towns, they don't pay property taxes, which is unfair. So the burden is on the taxpayers in that city or town. Yes, we need to get our fair share of affordability back.
Mr. Gardy.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? It's about casino funding?
A press reader wanted to know when the casinos should move back to paying property taxes instead of a pilot.
So I'd be very concerned with that because they only own 50% of the property value. Non-casinos are paying about $50 million a year. Casinos are paying $70 million through the pilot, an additional $22 million through CRDA funds that they give. So I don't want to see the costs that casinos are paying now return back to the taxpayers. I think we need to look at the whole picture. We have to be smart about it. When we started, we were just happy collecting property tax. But we got to think about the taxes that are going when you park your car in a casino. We have to worry about all the money that's going for luxury taxes. We're not seeing that money. That's the money that should be going back here. And as I've argued before, funding for internet and sports gaming, while the last Senate president told us that 4 casinos would close if they gave us $50 million, he didn't tell you that he took $200 million a year out of internet and sports gaming. So we need to make sure that they pay their fair share, but that's got to be a good chunk of the cost of living in Atlantic City. Atlantic City residents have to live with the negative aspect of casinos. We should be able to enjoy the positive dollar values as well.
Thanks. Ms. Swift?
I believe that casinos should be paying their fair share of property taxes. Otherwise, it goes on the backs of all the residents of Atlantic County, not just Atlantic City. But do I have to remind you that the tax rate in Atlantic City is creeping up to 4%? That's one of the highest next to Pleasantville in Atlantic County. When the pilot program was initiated several years ago, it went based on the brick and mortars, how much revenue was inside the casino. Since COVID, we all know that online gaming, it went through the roof. They brought in billions and billions of dollars, and our predecessors did not want the online gaming including in their revenue. I do not support that. That revenue should be included for their property obligation to Atlantic City. And I'm proud that we have co-sponsored the extension of online gaming until 2028. So that online revenue will continue to come here to New Jersey and be part of their tax obligation.
And Ms. Bender?
Yes, Atlantic City is the economic driver of Atlantic County. Obviously, the casinos are a big draw. We know that we did all suffer when we lost, a lot of the jobs at the casinos in Atlantic County had the highest number of foreclosures. So luckily, we are beyond that, and we are going, and business seems to be booming. So we definitely need to be considering and making sure that casinos are paying their fair share, because we know that residents are suffering, and we can not put the burden of the taxes to keep up the infrastructure without having help from the casinos, who we know are definitely making profit, or else they wouldn't be in business here. I definitely just think they need their fair share. I love that we're getting some non-gaming casinos, non-gaming hotels and activities here in Atlantic County. I think that's also going to help, and they were paying, I'm sure, their traditional property taxes. So I just feel like the pilot program, though it may have worked for a while because they were struggling, we need to be shifting away from that, and they need to definitely pay their fair share.
Okay, Buzz, this next question will start with Mr. Garding.
Should casinos continue to be exempt from the state's ban on indoor smoking while every other business operates under it? And if so, why?
Absolutely not. The health of the individuals far surpasses the profit of a casino. We know that smoking and secondhand smoking kills you. If you want to smoke, you know the dangers, go right ahead. It's your right as an American, but it's not your right to smoke in someone else's faces and give them lung cancer. We banned it in our bars, in our restaurants. We banned it on the boardwalk. We banned it in the beaches itself. How can we allow it in the casinos? Other states look after their people. New York Connecticut, Maryland, all banned smoking in their casinos. And in Philadelphia, that allows smoking, the one casino that makes the most money voluntarily has no smoking. So don't be listening to people saying that it's going to hurt casinos. Our interest has to be with the health of the people that work there. They're putting in 40, 50 hours a day their entire life. They don't deserve to die from lung cancer.
Ms. Swift.
I agree wholeheartedly. The health and the welfare of all employees of New Jersey should be protected. And the fact that the employees of the 9 casinos don't have the same protection as other residents of New Jersey it's unacceptable to me and to what we believe in. The whole world figured out how to eat outside during COVID, okay? I was at Ocean Casino the other day, and I saw people going out to the balconies to have a cigarette because people are just used to going outside to smoke. If these casinos can't make accommodations for people to smoke outside, I don't know what the excuse is for this. So, again, we have this bill, and we're hoping that it's going to be passing in hopefully the near future.
Ms. Bender.
Yes, the health of individuals is of utmost concern, of course. What happened when the casinos closed before was that a lot of casinos came up in other states. So we need to look at this from a holistic view in the region, our entire Northeast region where we have gaming. New Jersey needs to be concerned about our citizens, but there's no reason that New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware shouldn't be concerned about their citizens and their employees. So we need to work together and develop a consistent solution that all of these gaming places will stick to so that all of a sudden Atlantic City closes, because we've seen it happen, and everyone's running to these other states for their gaming. So it is a health concern, and I am concerned, and I want to solve that. It also is an economic concern, so we have to do it in a measured way where we are protecting both the economy and the health. However, I do feel like we can address the health issues right away through giving funding and making sure and incentivizing that hotels are using the technology to clean their air. Because there's ways you can do that, and so in the gaming facility, we can be pulling any of that smoke out in the meantime while we're working on the full solution.
Thank you. And Mr. Harrell.
Yes, I agree with the panel. We all are in acknowledgement that smoking in the casino causes health issues, especially if you're asthmatic or you have health issues. The casino, we need to come up with a universal solution for all of the casinos that are comprised here in New Jersey. We need to make sure that there is a place for smokers. They can have a room to themselves and go out there and smoke all they want and kill their lungs, but not to the people and their other health issues. I mean, in Delaware, they have smoking rooms, so you don't smoke on the floor. We need better ventilation systems, but these are things that need to be discussed. Universally, we can find a solution.
I can't believe how fast this hour went. We are actually at the final question before final statements. So this question, we will start with Ms. Swift.
When the state school aid figures were released last spring, Atlantic County District saw a nearly 11% boost in funding. But the county schools did not share equally in the increase, with 3 districts getting more, while 10 others saw a loss in funding. New Jersey lawmakers are currently considering tweaks to the funding formula to make the system more equitable. What do you believe is the fairest way to distribute funding to New Jersey schools?
Well, I agree. The legislature does want to tweak this funding for schools. Every child should have the same opportunity for education, whether you live in an urban area, a suburban area, no matter what. Educating our children is the most important thing that we can do here in New Jersey. So I saw some of those disparities. I was upset about it, and we brought it to the light of the state that we do need to tweak it. We do need to make changes because the future of our children is the most important thing. I have 3 kids in school, and I think we all have kids and grandkids that all deserve the same opportunity as any other child in New Jersey.
Ms. Bender.
As a mother, of course, education is paramount in my life, and I want my kids to get the best, and I want all of the school districts to be fairly treated. I know what's happening, specifically in my town in Summers Point, is a lot of people are leaving the school district. So the I think with the funding the way it is, based on population, we have issues because people are leaving, but the people that stay shouldn't have to not have good teachers. You can't have just fewer teachers and put multiple grades in one classroom. So we need to make sure that school districts that may be struggling are still getting the funding so they can be built back up and that people will want to stay, want to move back into their towns. So we absolutely need to be concerned with that. Another reason that I think people are leaving, not because the school is bad, but because we have more tourism, more people coming as second homeowners and they don't have children in school. So we shouldn't be punishing school districts that where their community is changing without they're not making it change, but they're, would be falling behind with the current funding. So we definitely need to make sure it's equitable.
Mr. Howe.
Yes, I do agree. As an educator, I see the monetary disparities in the school districts that suffer. We did have a bill called S2 that compensated those districts a little, but it was just a Band-Aid. So the taxpayers are the ones that has to make up that difference. So as a teacher, we are physically, mentally burnt out. It's the attrition rate to keep teachers is very, very high. We can't keep teachers. Everybody should be funded equally so that we can do the job that we need to do as educators, because we create those future leaders of tomorrow.
Thank you. And Mr. Guardian, will you take us home on this one?
So I think education is the easiest way out of poverty. I don't think anyone in this room can say that they believe that poor kids in urban area or poor kids in rural areas are getting the same quality education as everywhere else. We're spending $12 billion a year, the state of New Jersey, helping schools, but it's not helping everyone. We still don't have equality. That's what we need to be working on. I think the concern that we should have is that teachers are leaving and new young kids don't want to be teachers anymore. So we have to address the salary and benefits they receive, and I think at some point we have to underwrite the entire cost of their educational bills if they give us 15 or more years of service to our schools. I think the biggest cost for individual school districts is special ed. Maybe $100,000 a year per child compared to about $20,000. That should be picked up entirely by the state. That's the first way you really fix this. But we have to reduce the cost to the homeowners of what education costs, but we can't lower the quality of our education.
Thank you. And now each candidate will give a 1-minute closing. Before we do that, can I just briefly say, I think that the late Bill Hughes, our namesake at this center, would be very proud of the debates that we had tonight. They were substantive, the candidates were civil, and I think the second district is lucky to have the choices we saw tonight. Yeah. Okay, so 1-minute closing statement, and we will start with Ms. Bender, followed by Mr. Howe.
All right, first, I want to thank Stockton University and the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to be here tonight. Year after year, we have career politicians in Trenton that are failing us. Oftentimes, it's because they're going there to serve themselves instead of the people that they represent. So I think it's time that the elected officials, we need to elect officials who will fight for the people they were elected to serve and deal with the issues that are in their communities, finding solutions, and that's what I will do. Atlantic County has a brighter future with our team. It just takes good paying union jobs, improved affordability, fully funding public schools, and protecting our natural resources. I'm Lisa Bender. I'm a marine scientist and small business owner, and as an assembly person, I promise that I will work to represent all the people I serve. I will stand by your side and do everything I can to help.
Thank you. Mr. Howe.
Yes, I'm Alfonso Harrell. I've spent my entire career serving my country and the community. I believe that it's time for someone that's going to be honest, forthright, and trustworthy to have a seat at the State House. I promise that I will be there on your behalf and do what you need me to do, get bills passed that haven't been passed in this county to make sure that we get our fair share of the pie here in Atlantic County. That's what we need. My top priorities will be educational funding, affordable health care, mental health, veteran services, communities that are safe. This is what we run for. This is why I'm standing here in front of you, respectfully asking you for your vote on November 7th. My name is Alfonso Harrell. Thank you, Stockton University, for inviting me, and the League of Women Voters.
Okay, Mr. Guardian.
Oh, sorry. Is it not this?
So Stockton and the press, thanks for holding another debate for us. It has been my pleasure to serve South Jersey and Trenton. I have not done it for personal gain. I have nowhere to go. I'm 70 years of age. I do it because I really like to try to fight to get more for Atlantic County than what we've got in the past. In the past, Trenton, especially North Jersey politicians, told me they give a fair amount to South Jersey. But I've explained to them that there's more than just the city of Camden that makes up South Jersey, that we want a little more of it ourselves. And I want to tell you that I'm very happy to tell you that we've been endorsed by several unions, by the AFL-CIO, by the Labor Union, by the NJEA, by police, by fire. So we are representing the people of South Jersey. I promise I'll continue to do that. I'm not going to vote because it's Republican or it's a Democratic bill. I'm going to vote because it's good for Atlantic County. It's a pleasure to serve you, and I humbly ask you to give me additional 2 years to continue to represent you in Trenton. God bless you.
Thank you. And Ms. Swift.
Well, I have to say, it's been an honor and a blessing that you have elected me into office to be your Assemblywoman for the last 2 years. Before I was an Assemblywoman, I never held office, never ran for office. I wanted to run because I wanted to help the residents of Atlantic County. I wanted a future for my children. I want good businesses and good jobs here at Atlantic County. I'm passionate about this county. Like I said, I went to Atlantic City High School. I'm so proud of our record. I'm so proud of the fact that we brought in millions and millions of dollars right here in Atlantic County for Stockton University, for Atlantic Care, for the boardwalk, the anchor property tax relief. That was the #1 issue 2 years ago, and we delivered. And it's been such a pleasure running with Don Guardian and Senator Vince Palestina. We work as a team, we work as a family, and we get things done here in Atlantic County. So I hope that I have your vote on November 7th. And again, thank you so much, Stockton, the press of Atlantic City. This was a very informative evening.
I want to thank.
Can I just, sorry, I apologize. I want to thank the press of Atlantic City as well. The League of Women Voters, my friend that represents them is right in front of me, so it was on my mind. So anyway, thanks for all you do for democracy, and thank you to the press of Atlantic City. I apologize.
I want to thank this live audience for your attendance and your attention, and you were great. And be safe going home. Go Phillies, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.